again from CBC Watcher, Hours on CBC, Let's On. There are so many questions about the Tumbler Ridge shooter. I wonder if there were an organization that was funded with nearly $1.5 billion to ask those questions and to find the answers, but instead they just keep telling us there are questions.
One of those big questions is who did this and why, and we do not yet have the answers to either of those questions. I do want to ask you, Tanya, about the initial description offered by police in that early emergency phase of who the suspect was at that point and what they have said since.
They've said nothing since, David, and so you're right. That initial description is all we have to go on. So on that alert that was sent out publicly, it described the suspect as a woman, a female, wearing a dress with brown hair. We've heard nothing since then. All we know is that they said the suspect who was found dead was the same suspect that they did ascribe in that initial public alert. So yeah, that's the big question. And of course, this is a small town. A lot of people probably rightly do know who this was, but there's so much rumor, so much speculation, and we're looking for, of course, as you say, confirmed, credible information from authorities, and so far we have yet to hear that, so RCMP will be pressed for those answers this morning, no doubt.
And we would anticipate a news conference from them at some point today. I do want to ask about the two scenes here that investigators are now processing. One, of course, the school, but in the aftermath of the attack there, officers went to a second site, a home. They were prompted by something to go to that home and found two bodies there. Is there any indication of what prompted them to do that, whether these are connected?
So far, all they're saying is that they are connected, they believe, these two sites. But again, that's all we know. We are keen to know, and there's a lot of frustration building about what is the timeline, what is the connection. The list of questions unanswered far exceeds the list of answered questions we have. So, for example, as you mentioned, those two sites, what's the relation, what's the connection? The home, the people found dead there, to the school, the students found dead there. What's the common thread, if there is any, with all of the victims? What is the relationship, if any, with the shooter? What type of weapon specifically was used? You know, so many things we just don't know, and that police will be pressed on. The big one, of course, the motive, the why. And RCMP acknowledged last night we may never know
what could it
details
be,
around
guys?
that, but at least that is something people will need closure on as we move forward. Is why did this happen? And you know, further to that, could it have been prevented? Was there perhaps any indication that this was a possibility that could take place? Could anyone have done anything to stop it? All of those what ifs will need to be answered.
Yeah.
If only we had seen the warning flags in the front window of the school ahead of time. Maybe somebody could have done something about this.
Well, 3 years ago, Matt Walsh exposed Jesse Strang.
What?
Yeah, so maybe it was on Males of Reddit. Okay. So this is what Jesse Boy 347 wrote.
So this is an account that's attributed to
a Reddit
shooter.
post.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm trans, male to female, pre-HRT, 15 years old, and I've been viewing a lot of anime-related content recently. Was never into it before. The characters are always so cute. I don't want to be 2D or anything like the characters themselves, but when it comes to their body shape and stuff, I often find myself comparing their semi-unrealistic yet physically possible shape, specifically when it comes to height, BMI, and obviously their chesticles. Yeah, exactly.
This is fetishism. Anime fetishism. Oh my God.
Yeah. I'm super skinny, so that sometimes makes me feel kind of good, but I'm pre-HRT and my expectations are minimal for chest growth. I'm 6 feet tall. Why can't I be petite and small? Side note, if you know of anywhere I should go to get into watching anime, that'd be nice. Never watched it before. So this was 3 years ago from the shooter.
But what he says at the top of the message completely is like he says, I'm into anime lots. Could you give me recommends for anime? I've never watched it before in that one post. Like what is in any case, it's revealing. It's revealing that that's what he would be into at that time. And this was 3 years ago it was exposed.
Yeah.
Oh, if only there had been warning signs.
Yeah. Guys,
Um, if I could just jump back to that
Please.
CBC clip,
Please.
because they're really bending themselves into pretzels, avoiding talking about this guy. And when you listen to that clip, that CBC presenter, she says, you know, what happened, like who did it, why did this happen? Now, if you take a first-year journalism course, you're pretty much told that the first questions your journalism should answer are, you know, the five big ones: what, why, who, where, and how. And it seems like CBC doesn't even want to answer these questions. And like, I honestly don't understand how anybody can look at that, any person who is interested in the truth, and sees the CBC as a reliable source of information. Yeah.
Do you want to know my response to watching her give that litany of dancing around the elephant in the room? Was, instead of hustling like you did, Cosmin, instead of actually trying to get to the heart of the story, she was busy preening herself with her $600 Dyson bouncy hair curler to make it on this spot on the national news. So they spend more. Did you see all of the equipment in the background?
Yep.
Okay, they have all of those staff couldn't be bothered to get to the heart of the story, but you did, Cosmin. You did. So you
Yeah,
did.
well, the problem is also they want to be seen as the verifiers of information. They're essentially, what they're saying is like, it's not true until we say it is true.
Right.
Yes.
So that's the message they're getting across. And they do that, well, partially, well, they're trying to buy time so that they, you know, can deal with all of these things that confirm what most of people were talking about online, what you guys have said here before about the danger that's being expressed through the transgender movements, the shift towards school shooters being trans, you know, being involved in the trans movement, identifying as trans, but also having a presence in these online communities. As we're beginning to see this picture emerging, that there's this online ecosystem that nourishes this ideology and behavior in young disaffected people, mostly young males, right?
Yep.
And every society throughout history has had to deal with, what do you do about young men who have lost like all meaning in life, and you know, could potentially resort to violence. And I think that this expression of the transgender movement is being subdued because they believe they sold this narrative that that expression was white nationalism, far right extremism, you know, people with conservative conspiracy beliefs, and that's not holding up, right? The shooters we're seeing do not match that profile.
Right. As much as they try.